What's going on, guys? My name is Devante, and today I'm going to be showing you how to download files in Python with the request library. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is import the request library. So we're going to say import requests as, let's say, REQ. So now we have the request library imported. And how do we use it? So let's say I wanted to make a GET request to a web server to download a file. So I showed you in the last tutorial I don't know if it was last tutorial or not, but one of the tutorials I showed you a file, CSV file that looks like this. So let's say I wanted to make a GET request to this URL right here, this bit.ly URL. So what can I do? Well, all I have to do is say with REQ, which is the request library, dot get, since I want to make a GET request, and in the arguments of the method, I want to paste my URL, in quotes, of course. And if you have proxies, for example, you can also specify them here or other keyword arguments. I mean, the request library is very powerful. You can specify many different things if you want to. You can even stream the data if you wanted to, if you have a very large file, for example. And we want to give it a name. So we're going to say with request, and I have a get request that I want to make as, let's say, RQ. And within my with statement, I want to say that I want to open a file because I want to write the content of my request that I'm going to get from the server to a file because I want to save it on my local machine. So we're going to say with another with statement with open because we want to open a file, and then we want to name our file. So let's say, I don't know, my CSV.csv, and we want to open it in write mode, but not just the regular write mode, we want to open it in write bytes mode because I'm going to write the content of the request, which is going to be coming as bytes. So we specify this by W, which is write, and B, which is bytes. So we're going to get bytes. We're going to write bytes into our file. We want to name our file as, let's say, just file. And then what we can do is use our file pointer or file object, file.write. And within the method, we want to say that I want to use the request here, request object, rq.content. So this content attribute will have the actual content of the request. And let's see what this gives us. So if we pull up my current working directory right now, you'll see this is what I have right here. So I have this file open right here. This is my Jupyter notebook, and you can see the file I just created just now. Note the time it was just created is here. So let's open it up, and just like that, we have our file written. Look at how simple that was. Now, let's say we want to explore some basic attributes and methods of our request object. So I'll show you a few. This is one of them. Like I said before, this is the content attribute of our request, which will actually have the file content that we want to download. But request also has a bunch of other attributes and methods that we can explore. So let's investigate. So let's say I want to see the headers of our request. So I can name my request object rq.headers. Just like that, we can see all the headers that came from the server. So we can see, for example, our character set that was in the HTTP header and the content type, which is a plain text file. Even though it's a CSV file is basically still a plain text file. We can see the content length in bytes. We can see date of the server that we requested from, and some other attributes. We can also name the apparent encoding attribute, which will basically assume what the character set is from the character detection library, chardet. So it assumes that it's going to be ASCII, but we can see from the request header it was UTF-8. So I mean, it's not always perfect, but it's just to give you an idea of what it could be as well. We can have the elapsed time attribute, which will tell us basically the amount of time that elapsed between the sending of the request and the arrival of the response. So it basically specifically measures the time taken between sending the first byte of the request and finishing the parsing of the headers. So that's the time delta it takes. So let's see. It's right there. Only took like what, a few milliseconds. Another thing we can view is the requests.ok attribute, which will tell us basically if our status code was between 200 and 400. So this is a pretty good indicator if our request threw an error, because between 400 and 600, our status code would show that we got some sort of error, client error, server error. But between 200 and 400, this will print true because there's no error that occurred. Another pretty cool attribute we can use is the URL attribute. And this will tell us basically the final URL of the response. So as you can see, we requested from this URL, but this is a bit.ly link. It's just basically a mask for the underlying URL, which is a raw GitHub link. So this directly links to my dataset, which is right here. So that's pretty cool. So, I mean, that's pretty useful if you want to see and probably query from the exact URL, the final destination. Another pretty useful method with the get method in the request library is the iterlines method here. So what this does is, in conjunction with the stream keyword argument for your get method, it streams your data content for you. So let's say you're dealing with a very big file, maybe gigabytes in size, and you didn't have enough RAM on your computer to basically use to store your content before you write it to a file. Well, you can basically use this to return a generator object so that you can yield the results when you need it. And the iterlines method also takes a few keyword arguments of its own. So it takes a delimiter to, let's say, specify that you want each line to be returned on a new line and not on one line, and a byte size, a chunk size in bytes, to specify the maximum amount of bytes you want in each chunk or in each element of your generator. And then you can basically just write this to a file as normal. So let's run this and see what we get. And we can see our new files right here. So just as before, we have all our data. And that's it. Thank you guys very much for watching my video. If you guys liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. And remember to subscribe for more programming tutorials. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.